Good morning, book lovers of the internet. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please do make sure to subscribe. So in today's video, I am going to be reviewing the second out of 7 books I said I would read by mid-October, and this book is called 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now by Jaron Lanier, I suppose that's how you pronounce his name. So this book is 160 pages long, and I rated it 2 stars because it's not a good book, and I'll tell you why in just a few minutes. So I'll head this video off by mentioning that there is a bit of a warning for this. Do not read this book as it will put you in a reading slump. So as tempting as it might be, when you see the cover and when you see the title, you'll certainly want to read this as soon as possible because it is very compelling. It's also a short book, so you think it would be a quick read, but rather it took me a very long time to get through because of how badly written it is and how uninformative it tends to be. So, he tries to bring up the point that cats are always quite independent and they never rely on anyone else for their dopamine. And we humans should try to act the same way when it comes to using social media because several apps are destroying our happiness and they are destroying our capability to empathize and to be objective and to understand facts, I suppose. And I am very disappointed that this was recommended by a WhatsApp um, Bookstagram group I'm in, because I thought that the recommendations there would be fantastic, but nevertheless, um, this one was horrible. Neither of the arguments really convinced me to stop using my social media accounts, and now I consider myself to be quite responsible when it comes to spending time online. And I am also a content creator, so I have a bit of an excuse to use social media more than average because I need to make content in order to get followers and people to watch my content. So I don't see the point of deleting my social media accounts from an isolated and personal point of view, despite understanding the dire consequences it may have, several social media platforms may have on several people who are chronically online. I am not like those people. And as I mentioned, I would consider myself to be rather good with managing my time. It is something I've been working on recently. Of course, I am not perfect, but when it comes to managing my time, I'd say I am better than most people who spend hours a day commenting and hating on people for no particular reason and arguing with strangers, wasting their time. So, apart from the way that social media does tend to make me unhappy on occasion, especially when I spend more time than intended using it, um, I have the excuse of trying to learn how the algorithm works and therefore how to manipulate it to my advantage. And therefore, social media isn't working against me, but rather for me in my favor. And although Lanier does bring up some good points, he executes almost all of them, I suppose, horribly, and he does not keep in mind responsible users of disastrous apps like Instagram and Facebook or um, other apps like Twitter. And rather, he mentions that LinkedIn is one of the best places to go to. And I wouldn't say LinkedIn is a very prominent social media platform to begin with. So it's quite an irrelevant point. And I also hated the fact that every couple of lines you would find a footer at the bottom of the page. This made it very inconsistent and very difficult to read because it caused quite a distraction. It wasn't fun to read. I know it's a non-fiction book, so it isn't entirely meant to be fun, but it really hindered my ability to understand the points the author was trying to make. I'd say that the scariest part of this is how social media is truly changing our behaviors and damaging certain parts of our brain permanently, and we don't really have any control over it unless we try to educate ourselves and understand the truth in its entirety rather than depending on what people say online. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's important not to be subjective but to be more objective and learn the truth before sharing it online with people and obviously misinforming others. And it's also scary how artificial intelligence has such an impact on our brains and we don't even know this, you know? It is quite intrusive for us to give the ability to certain sites to manipulate us in this way. And Lanier himself works with tech company, I believe, and it's almost as though he's trying to use reverse psychology to get us to use social media rather than to quit social media. And he, as well, is of course trying to manipulate us. And yeah, I think he is fully aware that the algorithm is too captivating for the readers to change their attitudes towards it, and he's just making fun of the people he has taken advantage of already. So I would say that my empathy was not harmed by social media, based on the several years I've spent watching TV shows and movies and reading graphic novels and books, and experiencing so many of these emotions in my imagination, which a recent study says that you experience those in the same way you would experience them in real life. So things taken out of context are also often of no influence to me, since I strive to understand the full picture. If I ever take an interest at all, for instance, politics, I don't really care much for, apart from the comedic value that they hold, so I don't tend to influence myself that much. And Lanier himself seems to me to be quite a bad writer, who later in the book delves into the dangers of AI as well, and he tries to blow everything out of proportion. And it is harrowing to see how in the future we might not even have jobs, regardless of whether we delete our social media accounts right now or not. That will have no influence on the outcome. And I say this from a pessimistic point of view, but capitalism has way too much to gain to give a damn about those who do and do not delete their accounts. So, one thing I have to mention is that this book is probably obsolete by now, just a couple of years after its publication, and it's pointless. Basically, we're all mice in an inescapable maze, and only death can save us. I say that very lightly because I'm being pessimistic here, so don't quote me on that or take it out of context. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this book. I thought that I would enjoy it much more, but there were several printing errors which ruined the credibility of the book, and I actually was hoping that it would be interesting, but it was quite a slog, I believe, a slog to get through. And I wouldn't really recommend it to anybody. You can find a summary of the book in a couple of sentences online, and that will be plenty. So, as usual, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully very, very soon. Bye, guys.